Good afternoon, everyone. This is Henry Gambell with simpleroptions.com, and in tonight's free video I wanted to go into a little bit of live analysis with you here on NFLX. Now, there's a couple other indicators that I should have shown on this chart, and it's one that is a recent update to some of the work that Eric has been doing with us, and it's just something that I think is a very helpful way of looking at these, because when you look to a earnings report and you can look at this and see that in this case the average Q4 earnings in Netflix are 16%. I think that's an interesting metric because you look back at this and being able to narrow it down by each quarter, you can see, you know, the average Q3 is about a 2%, Q2 is about a 1%. So if I'm going off of these metrics and I'm looking back at it saying, okay, I think that this quarter would have a substantial move, I'm going to try to do my best first to limit my risk, and second, to try to make as much money as I can if I am right. Now, I'm looking at this thinking that it's going to head up into about 237, and there's two ways of looking at this that I like to do with your butterflies. So there's two ways to do this. We could either look at it on the chart, kind of piece it together there, but I also think going over into the options tab is a perfectly fine way of doing it. And without getting into too much detail, you know, and of course this is before the earnings come out, it's about 20 minutes before the cash close, so we'll get to see how this stuff plays out tomorrow. As I've said, I have no idea what Netflix earnings are going to do, but I think they're going to go higher, and this is one way that I'm looking to try and make some cash off that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is come in and buy the butterfly at 237.5. That's just a level that we've been looking at, and I think it's a good place to look for a butterfly. So if we look at the 1 month, 3 strike standard fly, that should put me exactly where I want to be, doing the 7.5 wide butterfly for just shy of $1. Now, also when I do these and kind of share my executions, a lot of times I may pay up a touch for them just to go ahead and get filled and share the logic behind the idea. If you wanted to be disciplined and try to work it down around, 88 cents, 90 cents, that's always a better way of going about it. But in this case, I'm risking 95 cents with a chance to make 6. In reality, I'm just going to try to double my money. So if I end up having to pay $1 for that, try to sell it at 2. And that's your standard way of looking at a bullish butterfly. Now, one way that may be a helpful complement to this, if Netflix just opens up perfectly sideways, is an unbalanced butterfly and doing it at the money. This morning I had shared a lot of different ideas where I didn't really like the unbalanced butterfly below the market because I didn't like it at 200, I didn't really like it at 210, but can I put it at 225? Well, if I buy the unbalanced here, and of course I'm always going to want to widen out the wings to be at least a little bit wider than 2.5 wide, which I think is just much too narrow, and then I can look at the unbalanced fly that's going here. Let's say if I can get $1.75 credit for it, and then if I can get filled on both of these orders, so I got the unbalanced right off the bat, so let's adjust the standard call fly, and I will move this up just a little bit to get filled, because once this can get filled, it's going to show you what I think is a very attractive risk-reward graph. So now that I've been filled on both of those butterflies, I can come back to Netflix, and you can see that this is basically what I'm trying to accomplish. So first and foremost, you go all the way down here into the left-hand side and say, if I'm completely wrong on this idea, and Netflix just gets hammered, how much do I stand to lose in this situation? Because I personally like to see that that it doesn't just have unlimited loss, seeing that at some point that will level out, especially with this particular strategy. It lets you know that you've configured it correctly. So if this idea just completely falls apart, I stand to lose just shy of $500. However, if it can go anywhere higher, you can see that my zero line, if it explodes higher, the credit that I take in off the unbalanced will offset the wings that I'm ripping through on the standard fly. However, if we land anywhere up here in this zone, I've got two areas where I can kind of peek out those profits, and the only thing I have to be concerned about is if the underlying does fall. So that's how I have set up Netflix for their earnings. I hope that's a helpful comparison and a way of looking at a couple of these butterflies and some helpful strategies for some of your future earnings trades.